All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. So the focus today is to give you guys a quick breakdown of our 72 Chevelle and the kind of money that we spent on getting this car on the road. There is a rule, an unspoken rule, that as a guy you kind of never keep track of how much you spent, because if you do, you're going to kind of freak out. But then there's another rule that says you never tell your wife how much money you've actually spent. You kind of always want to give her about 50 cents on the dollar. So if you spent 10, you tell her you spent 5. If you spend 5, you tell her you spent 2,500. That's just kind of what we do as guys, you know. But today I'm gonna land on the sword myself, and I'm gonna give you guys a breakdown of the kind of money that it took to get our 72 Chevelle to the condition that it's in. It may surprise some of you. It may surprise me. I don't have anything written down. I don't have anything in a notepad that I can reference to. Everything is just off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get some stuff wrong, but at the end of the day, you know, it is what it is. So first of all, the car is a 1972 Chevelle. It is a baseline Malibu. It is original 350 small block Chevy car, turbo 350 transmission, and then of course the 8.2 differential. The car was purchased out of Wimberley, Texas. The guy that I bought it from was a gentleman named Craig out of Wimberley. He was driving it to high school, and he needed something a little bit more reliable, so he ended up selling the car. Before we bought the car, we had been looking at other Chevelles, and I'll be honest with you, I had a budget of about $20,000 to buy a Chevelle. We had sold another property, we paid off a bunch of bills, and the wife said, you know what, you know, you've always wanted a Chevelle, go buy one. Just make sure that it's something that I can jump into and that we can all enjoy. And well, as you can see, that's not what happened in this situation. The problem we ran into was that we were finding a lot of cars that had a lot of hidden problems. We found a lot of cars that had hidden Bondo, hidden fiberglass, just a lot of hidden issues that the people were not disclosing to us, right? So we were looking for an honest car. An honest car is something that you can look at and you can pretty much tell right away what it is without having to dig too much, without having to stick a magnet to it. You know, this car is what it is. It's very honest. The vinyl top was taken off of it. This car was a vinyl top car. The rust you see here is all surface rust. It can easily be removed. Some of this stuff here that you see here, this is just glue from the vinyl top. This joint here, this is actually a factory joint for the quarter panel. This is actually lead in here. So all this is factory. The color of the car is the original green color. I don't know the exact name of this color. Maybe you guys can leave a comment and let me know what the color of the green is, but this is the original color to the car. As you can tell in the trunk, everywhere you see, that is the color of the Chevelle. So again, let's go ahead and get into what kind of money we spent to get what we call Project Turtle to where it is today. So again, we purchased the car out of Wimberley, Texas. We paid $6,000 for the car. This is where we began, right? That's your starting point, $6,000. That's where we started with the car, okay? I believe that's the price Craig was asking for it, and that's what we gave him for it. The car was running and driving. We did try to drive it home, and again, check out the other video so you can see what happened when we tried to drive the car home. So $6,000 is what we paid for the car. If you want to add the cost of the U-Haul that we had to rent to get the car home, that was about $400, but I'm not going to include that in the price of the car, because it's like including the price of gas, right? It's like you know, you're selling a car and you tell the guy, well, you know, I'll spend $100 on gas. Yeah, we don't do that, right? The car did have a stock 350. The motor was super worn out, very old. You know, it was the original engine, original transmission. So now, you know, we went through a lot of thinking, a lot of talk with my sons, and we talked about, you know, should we go LS, right? Everybody goes LS. You know, we looked at the cost involved in that. We looked at how much money we were going to spend to put an LS motor in it. We talked about doing a turbo system in it, right? We talked about doing that. And then in the end, what ended up happening is a good friend of mine happened to have a Nova that he was selling. It was a turnkey car. And I said, you know what, man, it had a big block in it. I said, you know what, I don't want the car, but tell me more about the engine. So he said, look, man, it's got a 454 in it. You know, it's been gone through. It's got a good crank, good pistons, good rods. It's got Edelbrock aluminum heads on it, right? It's got Edelbrock RPM aluminum heads on it. He said, I'll tell you what, man. He said, give me $4,000 for motor, transmission. I'll bring you the car, and then you take whatever you need off the car, and then just give me back the rolling chassis. There's a guy that wants the rolling chassis, and you know, that's all I want back is just the roller. I said, you know what, man? I said, that sounds like a deal. So that's what we did. We bought this Nova. He brought it over here, and then in the other video you'll see where we pulled that old small block out. We cleaned up the engine bay, and then we went ahead and put this 454 in it with Edelbrock aluminum heads. I believe the cam is just a regular hydraulic. It may be even just the RPM matching cam that came, you know, that came with the heads. I don't know, but that is what it is. So again, $6,000 for the car, $4,000 for the engine and transmission, which again is not a bad deal considering it came complete carb to pan. I mean, top to bottom, including the ignition system, everything was there, right? So $4,000 for that. So right there, we're already at $10,000. You know, that gives you an idea of how fast things snowball, how fast things add up, right? So just to get the car, just to get the motor, transmission, was $4,000. That does not include all the other work that went into the car, right? So here we are switching from a small block to a big block. Well, now you're going to need brackets, now you're going to need pulleys, now you're going to need hoses, now you're going to need all this other stuff that you didn't think about, right? So in this case, we went to a website that deals only in Chevelle stuff. I'm not going to say the name of the page, I can't even remember. I think it's like Ground Up SS or something like that. But that company sells everything you need to make a car from a small block to a big block, a Chevelle specifically. So they sold me the hoses we needed to go from the small block power steering pump to the big block power steering pump. The power steering pump is actually the same one off the small block. They just sold me the right brackets, right? Also, the car used to have an electric water pump on it. Well, we don't want to use that on the street, so we did have to buy a mechanical water pump from Wyand, and then of course we needed all the pulleys. So we needed the pulley for this, we needed the pulley for the crank, and then we needed the alternator bracket. And then that company also supplied the correct radiator hoses with the original GM numbers for going from for a big block Chevy, right? I want to say with brackets, hoses, pulleys, we were at about $1,000 by the time it was all said and done. And then that includes the water pump as well. So water pump, pulleys, hoses, we were at about $1,000, right? So now we need to keep the car cool, right? So obviously we're going to need a good radiator. We found this radiator on eBay with big fans on it. It is a 4-row aluminum radiator. I want to say I gave $500 for that setup. It's not bad. It keeps the car cool, and it comes complete the way you see it. Radiator with the shroud, with the pulleys, and then of course we wired up everything ourselves, right? My son wired up everything for me. So again, you know, that's where we're at. We're at $6,000 for the car, $4,000 for the motor and transmission, $500 for the cooling system, $1,000 for the pulley system to get the car going, right? So that's the drivetrain. We also needed, obviously, we removed all the AC system. I had to buy a cover, a plate, and we'll throw that stuff into miscellaneous, right? Stuff like the electrical junction box down there, you know, that we got from DB Link, all that stuff, you know, we'll throw it into one pile by itself, right? And then of course here's the big radiator, transmission cooler that we'll talk about a little bit later. But again, so that's where we're at on that. Some of that stuff we'll throw into the miscellaneous pile, right? Adding up more, we had to find seats for the car. We didn't have any seats, right? A friend of mine, his father happened to have a set of GTO seats. I believe we gave $300 for the seats, which was an excellent price. I can't complain. They are actually perfect for the Chevelle. They bolt right in. So, you know, again, we couldn't have gotten any more lucky finding a set of seats for the car than the ones we did. They're even brown. They even match the car, which was really cool, right? Next thing we had to do, we had to power the car up, right? So we had to buy a battery relocation kit. We bought a battery relocation kit from Summit. We installed it in the trunk, right? That allowed us to clean up the engine bay. Again, you know, big props to my son Chris and my son Abel that took care of all this stuff for me and got all that stuff done, moving the battery to the trunk. Again, we'll throw that into the miscellaneous pile, but by the time you get the battery, by the time you get the brackets, by the time you get all that done, you're looking at about close to $500 to get all that done, right? Moving over into the shifter. The shifter is a TCI Outlaw shifter. It's really nice. It's really cool. The shifter did sit too low. Fortunately, there's a company on eBay that sells these little towers that allows you to move the shifter up, right? So shifter with tower, we're at about $600 for the shifter with the tower. That allowed us to have a really nice shifter in the car. As you guys have seen in other videos, I really do like a good shifter. Tachometer, I didn't want to go with the crazy big monster tach that everybody puts up here. I didn't want to do that. I like a little column shifter. A column tachometer. So we did put a little column tachometer on it right there. I think that was like $400 for that thing. It's like 3 3/8. It's got the memory recall and everything. It's pretty cool. And then again, the shifter was like $500 for that, right? The carpet was new in the car. It was already there, so we didn't have to mess with that. The dash pad is in really good condition. It's got a little crack up there, but that's about it. We didn't have to mess with any of that. The roll bar was already in the car when we bought it. I'm a tall guy, so this bar here we had to cut in order to move the seat back. We do plan on getting it re-welded back in to allow us to you know, put some seat belts, some race harnesses on here, but that's in the future, right? Looking at the electronics of the car, you know, all that stuff is super expensive. MSD box and coil, you're probably looking at I don't know, in the area of $600 for all that by the time all's said and done. So again, I might be off on that, but that's more or less what I feel I had in it. Wheels and tires. The wheels, they look like rallies, right? And they are rallies, but the wheels are actually brand new. We didn't go off and buy a set of old used rallies. A lot of guys try to sell those things. They try to ask a ton of money for them. I didn't want to spend that kind of money, so I did just go ahead and go buy some brand new ones from Summit. I think they're Wheel Antiques, I think is the brand, right? It's kind of weird. The colors are a little bit different. The front ones are a little bit more on the primer gray side. The back ones are silver for some reason. But again, those are brand new. The back ones are 15x8 with 4.5 backspace, right? The factory Rally is a 15x8. The factory Corvette Rally is a 15x8 with 4.25 backspace, which you know, it works better with 4.5 on a Chevelle. So that's what we did in the back. And then the front are your standard 15x7s. Not a big deal there. Tires are your Nito Extremes, right? It's a 275 60/15 drag radial tire. Wheel tire package, I'm gonna say we're at about $1,000 for the wheels and the tires. You know, with the Nito drag radials, we were going to put Mickey Thompsons on it, but man, they're pricey. You know, they're even more expensive than the Nitos, so we went ahead and just threw a set of Nitos on the car for now. 275 60/15 on a 15x8 wheel. What else did we buy for the car? Obviously, something that stands out is the hood. The hood is made by Glass Tech. It is called a Sunco or Sunoco style hood. It's not a cowl induction. It starts at the front high, comes up about 5 inches at the middle, and then it comes right back down to the cowl, right? So we bought the hood from Glass Tech. We also bought the spoiler from Glass Tech. The spoiler's pretty neat. The bumper that was on the car was pretty beat up, so we did order a new bumper from eBay, and allowed us to mount the spoiler. Spoiler, bumper, hood, probably $1,200 for that, for the spoiler, the bumper, and the hood. Was about another $1,200 for all of that, to get that set up on there. I really like the look of it. I've had a lot of people give us compliments on it. And then again, all the other miscellaneous stuff like the sheet metal for the back. See if I can open up the seat and show you guys. The sheet metal for the back, we did ourselves. I mean, we were just trying to cover up the holes that were there. That was cheap. That was probably $100 in material and screws and whatnot, and the time it took us to get in there and bolt it all up. So that wasn't bad. But again, that allowed us to, you know, keep the roll bar in it. Gives it an old school hot rod look to the car. So again, I'm not keeping a running tab. I'm just giving you everything off the top of my head. Let's see. The rear valence, this piece here, was missing from the car when I got it. So that piece came from eBay. How lucky was that I got on eBay one day and there just happened to be a guy selling the exact same valence that I needed in the exact same color that I needed, right? And that was like $150 for that. He threw in an extra valence that was like 100. That was like a, you know, black. So again, about $150 for that. What else do we need? Door panels, obviously it's missing the one on the driver's side. We need a door panel for that side. That's, man, they're like $400 for door panels. I haven't ordered them yet. Apparently there's a wait. When you order them, it takes a little while for them to come in. Sorry about the wind. The wind just picked up. So anyway, as you can see, the car itself, let's talk about the car. The car itself is pretty solid. The trunk is like new. I mean, for a car that's sat in the field for a long time, the trunk is in really good shape. As I stated before, the car is an honest car. You can see everything that's there. You can see everything that needs to be replaced, right? So the car's not lying to you. It's not, there's nothing hidden. It's all out there in the open, right? If there's Bondo, if there's rust, you can see it, right? I know exactly what I need to do to the car. Rust wise, of course, we got a little bit here on the quarter panels. The doors are pretty solid. This front fender is pretty solid. The A-pillars are in beautiful condition. They're all really nice. Nothing on the A-pillars, no rust on the A-pillars. This fender here could use a little bit of work. It's got the typical rust down there at the bottom, and that's obviously caused when you get stuff like this, like these leaves and stuff that get stuck in there. That's where that rust comes from, right? That stuff just sits there and collects water, and then that's where you get that. This door here, I don't know why they replaced it. I think the car, I mean, obviously they must have crashed it at one point and messed up the door. Craig did have the door, the original door. I was like, nah, that's all right, I don't need it, right? I'm gonna keep this one. I actually like the brown door. It kind of gives it some character. It opens and closes really nice, so I think we're gonna leave that alone, right? More rust again around the wheel wells in the back, and then your typical rust down here in the bottom of the quarter panels, right? So again, that is our 72 Chevelle. Let's go ahead and throw it up on the lift, and I'll show you guys the bottom of the car, the stuff that you can't even see, the stuff that you know, you spend money on and people don't even realize that you've spent the money on it, right? So let's go ahead and do that. It's a hot day today in South Texas. Let's get out of the sun. All right, car's up on the lift now. We've already spoken about the spoiler. We've already spoken about the bumper. So let's break down into some of the smaller things now, or things that people don't even see. So one of the things that people don't even see is, for example, the oil cooler for the transmission, right? So the oil cooler for the transmission was sourced through a local race shop, and then we used all braided line for that, right? The local race shop, I believe we paid $400 for the cooler, and then about another $100 for braided lines. So right then and there, we're at about $500 in the don't tell my wife how much I spent list. So moving back again, that's the oil cooler there. You can see the braided lines right there that come from the front of the cooler to the transmission, right? So again, $500 for that. Let's talk about the headers. The headers are Hedman headers. We spent about $400 on those. We didn't want to spend a lot of money. They are a small tube diameter header that give us excellent clearance for the filter, excellent clearance for the transmission. You know, if we break down on the side of the road, we want to make sure that we have good access to everything and we're not out there fighting the car, right? Also really good space for the frame as well. Again, you know, they're great for low-end torque. The car is a street car, so we were looking for as much low-end torque as we could get, even though it's a big block. Again, that's what we were looking for. The headers are a 3-inch diameter exit. Then they go to an adapter that goes from 3-inch to 3.5 inch. So let's go ahead and go into the exhaust system, right? All the exhaust pipes were sourced through Summit Racing, including the X pipe. All this came from Summit Racing, as well as the Dynamax race bullet mufflers, which are also 3.5 inch. So it's 3.5 inch all the way throughout. This was done by a local muffler shop that took their time doing it right. You know, the guy actually shaped it how he wanted it, then he put it on a bench and welded it all up for us. So that came out great. Let's talk price, right? Since that is the focus right now. The price for the exhaust system with the mufflers, with getting it all welded in, was right around $1,000, right? So just the welding alone was $400 to get that done. Again, the guy did an excellent job of doing that for us. So again, $400 for the weld up, and then about $600 for all the pipe. The pipe came in long runs, right? They don't sell you the pipe bent at Summit. You have to buy some 45s, you know, you got to buy some straight pipe, you got to buy the X, you got to buy all that stuff separate. And that's where we're at. We're about $1,000 for the exhaust system, right? So again, $500 for the cooler, $1,000 for the exhaust system, $400 for headers. If you guys are writing this down, keeping tabs, keeping account, then you guys know how much we've spent on stuff that you don't even see. So again, let's continue on right now. Make sure I don't hit my head here on the lift. Let's continue on to the rear of the car, which is the fuel system. The fuel system is something that snowballed out of control. Originally, we were just gonna do just a mechanical pump on the block. Come to find out, the block did not have a provision to be able to mount a mechanical pump, right? It's a newer style block. So we had to redo the entire fuel system. We had to buy a new gas tank. We had to buy a new sump, new filter, new fuel pump, all braided lines to the front that eliminated all the stock stuff. In a way, this was a blessing in disguise. I mean, we do plan to spray the car with nitrous, so at least we have the fuel system done already, right? So how much did the fuel system cost? Man, I'm not gonna break it down, but I believe we're at about $1,000 for the fuel system. By the time you bought a new gas tank, by the time you bought a sump, by the time we had the sump welded in, by the time we had the fuel pump, all the lines, this is all work we did ourselves. So the labor, of course, you know, it's just the work we did, but everything else we had to pay for. The sump was welded in by a buddy of mine. You know, it did leak a little bit, but that's fine, man. I'm gonna throw some epoxy on there and seal it up. I'm not worried about it, right? So again, $1,000. is about what we spend, maybe a little bit more, but just rounding it off, we were at about $1,000 for the fuel system, $1,000 for the exhaust system, $400 for headers, and then about $500 for the oil cooler, right? That's all the stuff on the bottom of the car that you don't even see, and we're not even done yet. The next biggest expense we're going to have in the car, and the reason we don't race the car, is because of that. That is a 10-bolt 8.2 differential. All right, it's a stock rear end out of the car. It's weak. It's got weak axles, right? 28 spline axles, junk single, one legger, one burnout tire. So that's what we got there, right? I'm not going to use that to try to race the car. There is a company that sells a Ford 9-inch that bolts right up under the car. That's about $3,000. There is a company that sells coilovers for the car that are also bolt in. That's about another $1,000. And then we're going to need to buy control arms, boxed in control arms and adjustable control arms and whatnot. By the time it's all said and done, we're about $5,000 for just the rear end setup on the car, right? So again, do the math on that. Don't tell my wife. Man, if she ever found out how much we spent on this car, she would kill us. All right, guys, and that is it. That is the breakdown of our 1972 Chevelle. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I lost count at about 20,000. If you guys came up with another figure, please leave it in the comments. I'm stopping at 20, and that's what I'm sticking to. That's what I'm telling the wife that I spent on it. She's not too happy. The car is too loud for her. We tried going down to the Sonic for some milkshakes. She immediately asked me if I had any kind of a ear protection for her. The car, as you can tell, is super rowdy, super loud. She wanted me to buy something that was just a cruiser. We obviously failed at that, something that she could go for a ride in. And again, we failed at that miserably. But the car, in my opinion, is awesome. I love the car the way it is. As I stated before, we don't plan on painting the car. Man, again, I stopped at 20 grand. If we decide to paint the car at any time, you can just imagine what it would cost to do the quarter panels, to do the work, to paint the car. We'd probably be well over $30,000 into the Chevelle. We don't want to do that. We don't want to spend that kind of money. I love the car. Who knows, maybe some years down the road we'll spend that kind of money, but for right now it is what it is. I love it the way it is. The car gets a lot of attention at the car shows. I get a lot of people tell me that they just love the way the car looks, the way it sits. I love it as well. And again, it's just my favorite car in all the cars that I've owned over the years. We've flipped a lot of cars, and this by far is my favorite car. So again, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. Obviously, we're stuck at home for a while, so obviously we got nothing else to do than to just come up with videos for you guys to enjoy. We are going to do a part 2 of the shop breakdown. The part 2 will cover some of the stuff we didn't cover in the first video, stuff like the lift, electrical work done to the shop, things like that. We'll cover that in the next video that hopefully we'll come up with before the weekend is over, if not going into next week. Thanks again for watching. Please like, subscribe to our channel. Please share the videos, and we'll see you guys again soon. Stay safe.